Welcome to Reel FIlmmaking. My name's Corey, and yes, it has been a long time since I've put up a video. I'll have to talk about that in another video, but I'm excited. I'm glad to be back. I've missed doing videos and just talking about filmmaking, and so today I wanted to do a quick video just talking about one of the things that's been on my mind, and that's the whole word cinematic. What is cinematic? So if you live in a certain corner of the YouTube world, primarily filmmaking or cameras and all that, we hear cinematic, how to get like cinematic footage, how to make your camera get cinematic setting. I'm gonna confess I'm guilty. I have used cinematic in some of my titles and a few of my videos. The more and more that we hear that word, I feel like we just kind of get detuned to what it actually means. Like the value gets taken away from that. Because nowadays when you hear cinematic, you just think like, oh yeah, the person who's doing slow-mo B-roll, like 120 frames per second, they're gonna do some drone shots and some whip pans, and they'll have a cool track from Artlist or whatever, under their stuff, and like that's cinematic. I think cinematic means so much more. It's not B-roll sequences and slow motion video. I think it has so much more to do with movies and like why we get into filmmaking. When you look up the definition of cinematic, it says pertaining to film, pertaining to the cinema, things that we watch on the screen. And so that definition isn't super helpful. The most it can tell us is like it has qualities of a film or something that would be in a cinema. Cinematic is a really difficult term to define because we all have an experience and an exposure to cinema. Where in other fields, there's a group of people and they have specific terms, like jargon, if you will, that they develop, and they kind of have the expertise, the corner on that market of how to talk about something. And while you do have that in filmmaking and doing video work, it's different because there's an audience. There's people who watch movies. We've all grown up watching films and TV and all this stuff. And so whether we internalize it or not, we all have a perception of like, what is a movie? What is cinema? You have a room maybe of 5 people, you might get 5 different answers of what makes something look cinematic. Like I mentioned earlier, a lot of people can claim in their videos, like, do this thing to get cinematic images, or these features create cinematic images on your camera, whatever. I think cinematic has more to do with the thought of everything happening behind the camera as opposed to like a setting or something that you change specifically. Something that is a film, for me, means like there's attention to detail in all these different facets of like what makes a movie come together to be a movie. So what I mean by that is like, yeah, there's things like the camera, the choice of camera, the composition, what type of lens you shoot with, but then there's also other things about like the lighting and the art direction, what colors, the placement of people in the frame, the audio, like the sound mixing, the sound design. There's so many things that contribute to making an image look cinematic. It's not just slapping on a filter and being like, yeah, it's cinematic. All these elements that people are paying attention to and investing in and working on, and all of those things coming together to make something bigger than just the one thing. But the other element of cinematic is related to cinema or a movie, telling a story. Films tell stories. You've heard the phrase like a picture is worth 1,000 words. Well, a movie is literally like thousands of moving frames. And so how much more should each image be telling stories? And that's part of what creating a cinematic image is. It's telling a story. You've got visual storytelling. You're like, what does the color that this character is wearing convey about something? What does the lighting convey about the type of conversation they're having? What is the hairstyle? Like there's so many different things that impact the image as a whole and the story that's trying to be told. When these two components, which is like all of these different skills and technical things coming together, like when people are really focused on them and attention to detail, that combined with everything that is being chosen and decided upon, like is aiding to help tell a story or convey an emotion, that's what makes a cinematic image. It's not just like having a cool lens or like an awesome backdrop, those things are helpful, or having a really good actor. It's all of these things coming together in service of a story or an emotion. That's my 2 cents about what I think cinematic is. It's just something I've been thinking about a lot, and particularly thinking about like this channel and doing filmmaking and what does that mean. And you know, you can get on here and like technical skills are good. Like I can talk about technical skills, I will talk about them, they're helpful, but there's so much more than just a couple settings on your camera that you click that make an image cinematic. And that's, again, at the end of the day, you kind of have to be okay with understanding that we all have different understandings or definitions of what cinematic means. Like an image, when I watch a movie, can look cinematic to me, might not be cinematic to someone else. And even in trying to define cinematic, Spike Lee's definition of cinematic is very different from like Christopher Nolan's. There's just different styles, and I think that's okay. Like that's one of the really cool things about art and filmmaking in particular, that there can be so many expressions of filmmaking. I hope you enjoyed today's video. I'd love to hear your thoughts. Like, what do you think makes a cinematic image? Like, what have you done to go and achieve cinematic images? Let me know down in the comments. And it's real good to be back. I'm hoping to have more videos coming out. I'm sorry it's been so long, but it's great to be back doing real filmmaking. I'm so rusty on this, I don't even know what to say. If you enjoyed the video, give it a thumbs up. Subscribe to Reel FIlmmaking for more content coming about filmmaking, cameras, creativity. Until next time, keep making movies and watching movies. And I'll see you on Reel FIlmmaking.